When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
We're back with the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali. James is back from Saratoga. He was enjoying the Traverse Stakes. Hopefully won some money as well. And we're also going to look ahead now to Del Mar and Saratoga. They have Breeders' Cup preps this week. And then we also have Kentucky Downs kicking off their 7-day meet today. It's the money meet, as our colleague Abby Huffman will say. So we're going to talk some races at all three tracks. And James, I'll start things off with you since you're back from Saratoga. What is your best bet of the week?
My best bet's going to come in the race 2 Saturday at Saratoga. It's number 2, Authentic Gallop. He's 8-1 on the morning line. This is a colt that had 5 furlong bullet workouts at Churchill Downs at Keeneland. He got bet down to 3-1, making his career debut in a 6 furlong maiden special weight on the main track earlier in the meet, and really just showed high speed from the break to set the pace in hand. Now he got to the top of the stretch, got a little bit tired. The winner was a Chad Brown trained favorite and definitely looked good winning it. But I thought this was a great just educational experience for Authentic Gallop. Like I said, Authentic was Horse of the Year, won the Mile and a Quarter Breeders' Cup Classic. Authentic Gallop is from a really classy Canadian family. Lots of two-turn router types, Amy's Gallop, and other notable stakes performers on turf and synthetic. And I think Authentic Gallop will – one thing about the colt, too, Mark Casse, since that debut effort, has put 3 turf works into Authentic Gallop. 2 of them are quick moves, which indicate he's showing a preference for the surface. So I look for him to improve off of that debut effort, moving to the turf and stretching to 2 turns. I like the inside post. I expect him to be prominent from the start with blinkers and Dylan Davis.
I believe it's Tom Amos, real quick, for the trainer for Authentic.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Tom Amos. Tom Amos. I said Mark Casse. You're right. Tom Amos. Thank you very much for correcting that.
All good. And he's doing really well right now. 21% winner at Saratoga. Very tough race, though, especially first time on the turf. And there's a couple good runners making their debut on the grass for some other tough turf trainers as well. Darin, what's your best bet?
Yeah, I'm also going to be up at Saratoga. I took a look at the Flower Bowl, which goes postward at race number 12. Grade 2 going a mile and 3/8 on the turf. And I like a horse that's going to be a price in number 6, Nisi Marie. Nisi Marie is coming out of a race where I thought she was a good third in the Beverly D, behind Moira and Fev Rover. Certainly 2 grade 1 quality type filly and mares there. The race into Diana, she was stuck wide pretty much throughout. And the race was a mile and an 1/8 over the inner turf at Colonial that day. And I just don't think that's her best. I think this is a filly that really wants to stretch those legs out, settle into kind of like a rhythmic stride at the back of the pack, like she was able to do in the New York Stakes, like she was able to do in the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational last year, and really set her eyes on the leaders coming into the stretch of a race that got a lot more ground to it. And I think that's what she's going to get here. There certainly is enough speed here going a mile and 3/8 down to the inside and towards the outside a little bit to set things up for her rally. But yeah, I just think the race sets up really well for her. I think the added ground is going to do her some good as well. And I think Warlike Goddess, at the age of 7, I don't want to knock her at all, but she's clearly not the same Warlike Goddess that she was a year or 2 ago. And I think this is a good spot to try to pick her off. So Nisi Marie, probably keying her on top of McCulloch quite a bit in my exactas and trifectas. And I always say you have to respect Butch Reed whenever he shows up in a spot like this up at Saratoga. So love the price. I think she's live here with Jose Lescano aboard.
I'm going to talk about this race a little bit more in our what else, because there's some interesting, you're looking at a closer, Warlike Goddess is also a closer, and McCulloch. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about those angles. But for my best bet, I'm sticking with Saratoga as well in the grade 1 spin away for 2-year-old fillies. I'm going with number 2, Sherbini at 8-1, but I wanted to start off talking about our morning line favorite, coming off a huge debut win, 6.25 length win. And, there's a lot of fillies in this field that have 1 or 2 career starts. I don't like to put a lot of weight in huge debut wins with 2-year-olds. Anything could happen. They're still developing. And then we also have the Queen's MG, who actually has 4 career starts, going for a little bit of history here, and I think should be respected at 7-2, won the Schuylerville as a 44-1 long shot, and then won the Adirondack. Now, if she wins today, she would be the first filly to get the sweep of these 3 dirt stakes at Saratoga. The last time it happened was Dwayne Lucas with Overall in 1987. So we haven't seen it happen. It certainly could happen with this horse, but there's a lot of speed signed on, and I like looking for late runners when that happens. So I'm looking at Sherbini, who actually finished second, closed late to the Queen's MG in the Schuylerville. And I think with the pace setup here, this is a really good horse for Mark Casse. He's doing really well at Saratoga, 33% winner this meet. Ferrant Giroux is retaining the mount, won on debut with Sherbini. So I'm looking for her to close late with the added distance of 7 furlongs in this race.
I thought she got off to a slow start too in that race and is eligible to improve upon it. And she ran in a real key race at Churchill Downs. The runner-up that day to her at Churchill Downs when she broke her maiden 2-back Sherbini was Strong State, who was an impressive maiden winner on the opening day program. So I thought both those fillies were in with a chance. Obviously, the Queen's MG is the one to beat.
Yeah, I actually thought this race was close to impossible, guys. As impressive as the Queen's MG has been, I look at the Ragas and Sheets quite a bit, and I can't remember a time that I've seen this, but you've got 11 2-year-old fillies in here. 10 of them are coming off of a Ragazine figure between 15 and 17 in their last start, which is pretty quick for 2-year-old fillies. But the fact that the entire field is so grouped together in that range really makes this quite a puzzle, and they haven't run enough to really develop much of a pattern to go off of either. So for me, this is just a complete crapshoot, and almost to the point where none of these fillies would shock me. I think it's an extremely difficult race.
There's really only 2 late runners as well. Immersive is the other one for Brad Cox, another impressive debut winner. But I'm hoping Sherbini gets the job done. I just think with the added distance, this could be the right setup here. Well, let's talk about the horses we're fading at a short price. So Darin, who is that for you?
Yeah, sticking with the Saratoga card on Saturday, I tried to do something at Kentucky Downs, but you want to talk about tough races. I just throw a dart over there. Race 10, the Grade 3 Prioris at Saratoga on Saturday, has a morning line favorite in number 7, Too Sharp, that I'm against here. I know she looked really impressive, winning by 11 lengths last time out. She was 1-2 there. She came down the track with front bandages for the first time. She beat a field of 5 that day. I'm just always dubious of fillies like this, young fillies who put up a monster figure like that and come back in about 4 weeks' time. I'm going to look for her to regress or bounce off that performance. I think there's some other talented runners in here, most notably a horse like Tricky Temper, who I certainly think is coming off of 2 big efforts from a speed figure standpoint and has a right to move forward in here. But yeah, for me, Too Sharp is going to be probably a filly that a lot of people lean on quite a bit in the multi-race exotics. And when they zig, I'm going to zag, and I'm going to play against here and try to load up elsewhere and maybe focus on a horse like Tricky Temper, or even a horse to the inside like Muccia is coming off of a little bit of a respite for Gustavo Delgado, and actually is a prime example of what I'm talking about, a filly that had a big figure and regressed in their subsequent try. So fade number 7, Too Sharp, in the Prioris at Saratoga on Saturday, guys.
I like the 2 horses you mentioned, and I also took a long look at Brightwork. Couldn't quite figure out if I should be confident she was supposed to run in the test, slipped in the paddock. She's been schooling a lot and seems to be pretty composed, but, had a very, very hot start to her career racing at sprint distances. Don't know with the long layoff, though.
John Ortiz having a great meet also for Brightwork. My fade is going to come it's going to be number 1, Ruby Nell, in the ladies turf sprint at Kentucky Downs on Saturday. This race comes 1 race after the $3.1 million Grade 3 Nashville Derby, which I think, looks more formful on paper with a couple nice horses in Kajina and Belle Belle Justum, who's shipping in from England for the race. But Ruby now is cutting back to a sprint. Her last time sprinting, she closed from 8th to win. She was able to show speed in these long distance turf routes in California in her last 2 starts, but there's a bunch of speed signed on for this ladies turf sprint. I anticipate her having to work out a trip from the inside. And I don't think turf sprinting is necessarily her best game. I like a couple fillies coming out of the Grade 3 Crest at Saratoga. It's a real salty, full field of fillies and mares, and I'm more than willing to take a chance against my top pick is number 11, Danse Macabre, who's a 6-1 on the morning line. But I'm willing to take on Ruby now from the inside at short odds in the ladies turf sprint.
Yeah, that was almost my fate as well. There's another horse I like in this field at Kentucky Downs, Secret Money. Had been racing a little bit shorter, but I feel like 6.5 furlongs is really that distance for that particular filly.
Yeah,
well,
I love Danse Macabre and Secret Money. Like, I look at a race like this at Kentucky Downs and think I feel like I have a pretty good read on it. I like the horses coming out of the Crest Stake, and then they run the race and they run like 7th, 9th, and 11th. So, but yeah, I agree with James's point of view. I think the horses coming out of the race are the ones you want, and definitely going to be keying off the 8 and 11 in quite a bit in that spot.
And I'm going to take it to the following race after we have the ladies turf sprint. It's the ladies turf stakes, a Grade 3. It's a mile on the turf, and I'm fading Mission of Joy at 4-1. A little surprised. This is the morning line favorite on a 6th loss streak right now, and cutting back to a mile. Now, last out, race in the Diana and finished kind of far back. And I feel like at a mile isn't really necessarily her best distance either. Last 2 tries finished 3rd by a narrow margin, and then also finished 4th racing at a mile. And then we're going to have rain in the forecast as well. So if there's a little bit of give in the turf, I feel like she's not going to like it. She finished 3rd and 4th as well when she raced on turf that was not firm. So I'm going to fade this horse here. I feel like there's a really good Trad Brown runner and Fluffy Socks in this field. And I also like Implicated at 6-1, who's 2 for 2 since transferring to Brendan Walsh's barn. So I'm fading Mission of Joy at 4-1. Lukewarm morning line favorite here. All right. You'll have nothing to say about it.
It's another tough race at Kentucky Downs. This one I didn't have nearly the same type of grasp that I felt that in the race that you spoke about earlier. The lady, not the ladies turf sprint, but the other race that we were just talking about. Yeah, this one I really had no way of grasping what I thought was going to happen. So I'll leave this one to you, Ashley.
All right. Well, I'll turn it over to you for the promos at least, Darin. So what do we have going on this weekend?
Yeah, another weekend. A lot going on with Kentucky Downs coming up, but we'll start with the Summer Selected Money Back. That rolls on through its final weekend, obviously focusing on Saratoga with their big cards on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, of course, has the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Saturday has a series of stakes races as well, so we're going to finish out the Saratoga Meet Strong, featuring them in the Summer Selected Money Back series. And then we talked about Kentucky Downs, money back opportunity there, 2nd and 3rd back on selected races throughout the meet. Probably be a couple of races each day, so go to the offers page, go to that offer, and be sure to be opted in and wager confidently with that insurance in your back pocket to get your money back for 2nd and 3rd. We also have the Breeders' Cup Challenge Profit Boost coming up this weekend as well. That's really a great offer because what it does is it doesn't just boost the race that is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup, but it also boosts the entire card. And this week we are featuring Del Mar for Pacific Classic on Saturday. So that entire card has a 15% profit boost around it. So be sure to be opted in and take part in that. We're also going to give you a 15% odds boost on Labor Day Monday. That's right. We have a special Monday of racing that day. It's always historically been a great day of racing. So 15% up to $25 back on your first straight win wager in each race to give you that odds boost on your winning win bets as well. And of course, we have to talk about TwinSpires tournaments. With Kentucky Downs beginning, we've got 136 players in today's contest, which is just awesome to see. We have the $300 Nashville Derby Challenge for the card on Saturday. That's going to obviously be a highly sought-after tournament. And we come right back with another $100 cash challenge on Sunday as well. And then the following week, we're even going to have an NHC BCBC qualifier at Kentucky Downs. So a lot to look forward to. We're really getting the the premium content now in these tournaments. Kentucky Downs rolling into Churchill Downs, Keeneland coming up behind that. Like I mentioned, 136 people playing today, which is awesome to see. So really excited for that. And I have a feeling might have some more exciting announcements coming up related to tournaments in the next month as well. So be sure to stay tuned for that, guys.
All right. And James, I'll turn it back to you. What are you looking forward to watching this weekend?
Well, I'm going to go to the West Coast. They run the $1 million Pacific Classic. It's the 34th running of it. And the race is headlined by number 7, Adair Manor. She's been installed as the 9-5 morning line favorite over 8 male rivals. She's attempting to become only the second female to win it, along with Hall of Famer Beholder. So it's a real challenge for a filly or mare, but and the other thing as far as Adair Manor goes, I think the 1.25 mile distance represents a challenge as well. You could say that 6 over 8 stakes wins have come at 1 1/16 or less, including impressive wins this year in the Apple Blossom and the Clement Il Hirsch. But one thing about this field, I mean, this Pacific Classic's taking place at the Breeders' Cup Classic site, Del Mar. It's at the Del Mar distance, is essentially the local prep for the race. But Dare Manor is not facing an imposing group of male rivals in here. I look at this field and I see Dr. Venkman and Il Miracolo. They're more like middle distance types in my eyes. Reincarnate isn't going particularly well this season, and even there goes Harvard, who won the 2022 Hollywood Gold Cup, has been off form here of late. So I just think that Adair Manor is arguably, I mean, she's at the absolute top of her game right now for Bob Baffert, and the Pacific Classic looks very winnable, for her, given her, her class. I mean, she's so classy that I think she's going to have a real chance just to overwhelm this field. She's still going to be headed towards the Breeders' Cup Distaff this fall. I think the 3-year-olds and perhaps international challengers are really the ones to look at this point for the Classic. But it is real interesting. I'm excited to see Adair Manor try to win the 1.25 mile Pacific Classic over males.
I think Full Serrano might be the dark horse here. Has run at 1.25 miles on the turf, making second U.S. start here. But talking to Adair Manor, Andrew Brown caught up with 7-time Pacific Classic winner Bob Baffert at the Briggs. So let's see what Bob Baffert had to say.
All right, Bob, I think the last time we chatted about Adair Manor, you had a race at Santa Romita's Fall Meet picked out for her next assignment. What changed?
Well, the way she was training, she came out of her. I like the way she won the race. She's always been a filly that, her best races have been on the lead, and she went off the pace last time, and so I think that had a lot to do with it. But the fact that she's doing so well, she's training well, and I thought if you're this might be an opportunity to run her in a big race like this. So, we feel like she deserves a crack at it, and I've always felt if they're doing really well, run them.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, she looked absolutely sensational in the Clement Il Hirsch. How did you assess that race, and how has she been doing since?
Well, I was really nervous about that race. I didn't like the way she was caught me between horses, but she just sat there and she came out and looked like she was going to get beat. And as soon as he tipped, she just came in her big long stride. As long as she can keep the long stride going, and she's not a kind of filly you can stop and go with her. So 1.25 miles usually, they get she drew well. I like the way she drew, and so just need some racing luck.
So no concerns about the 1.25 miles. It's the first time she's stretching out, right?
I mean, there's always concern about 1.25 miles, but for her, I don't see it.
Yep.
She's as big as she is, so I'm not worried about that.
Okay. And did Torpedo Anna's gutsy effort in the Travers at Saratoga on Saturday give you any influence your decision at all, or you just admired her effort?
No, I was already thinking about that. That was a great race. I mean, she ran huge. I mean, there were top 3-year-olds in there for her to run like she did. And Kenny McPeak, for him to take that was a bold move on his part, and so, and Todd Pletcher having fierceness I mean, it's a great training job to have him ready to, and Johnny V, the race he rode, everybody thought, fierceness has always been a top horse. I mean, I've always thought he's the best 3-year-old in the country, and so, but, they have to run, they have to beat each other to prove it.
Well, let's hope Dame Anna can go one better than Torpedo Anna last weekend, this weekend in the Pacific Classic. Good luck, Bob.
Thank you.
Any thoughts?
Pick the right race to run her. I agree with what James was saying before. It's not the strongest Pacific Classic we've seen by any stretch of the imagination. Makes me long for the days of Darin Go and Best Pal and Siphon and Sandpit. There's nothing like that in here. Not to say there's not a couple of quality runners. Dr. Venkman certainly could be a very nice horse going forward. But to echo James's point, this is not the field that even Beholder had to beat. I think she's in a good spot. I think the 1.25 probably helps her more than it helps anybody else in the race, to be honest with you, based on her running style. So, I think you picked the right spot to run her. I don't think we'll see her against males in the Breeders' Cup by any stretch of the imagination. So if you were going to try it off a big effort, I think this is the spot you would try it.
All right. Well, Darin, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I was looking forward to the Jockey Club Gold Cup because I was hoping to see Next in this field, and he's not. And we'll talk about why in a minute. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, obviously a historical race that was won by the likes of, Cigar and Skip Away and Kelso 5 times. So certainly similar to the Pacific Classic, this field is certainly lacking some of the star power that we've seen in years past as well. Arthur's Ride has the right to be any kind at this point, offers huge effort in the Whitney. Certainly encouraged by Tapit Trice's return to the races last time out in the Island at Monmouth, where his win reminded me of his allowance victory in his second lifetime victory, and maybe he's getting back to his best form at the right time. I certainly hope to see Disarm give a better a showing of himself after not running a step really too back and running just a mediocre 4th in the Whitney. So, but for all those reasons is why I really was hoping to see Next here. Next is a horse that has been just dominating marathon horses by 25 lengths. And at this point, if you weren't going to run him in this Jockey Club Gold Cup at 1.25 miles, when are you going to run him against real quality competition? I know that Doug Cowan said he came out of the last race a little bit tired. I just feel like every race that there's an opportunity to run this horse against the cream of the crop of the division, there's a reason that they don't do it. And I really don't have any confidence that we're ever going to see this horse run against the better older horses, which is a real shame because, listen, you own a horse and I'm a horse owner. I'm never going to knock you for putting your horse in the spots where you think that he can win. But this horse runs speed figures that are as fast as any of the horses that are running in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. The race is not a mile. The race is not 1 1/8 miles. It's 1.25 miles. So he's won at 1 3/8 miles. He's run at lesser distances than this before. So to think that he can't run at 1.25 miles and give a peak effort, there's been a long history of trainers not knowing what their horses can do when they give them the opportunity to do it. Cigar ran on the turf for the first 2 years of his career. This horse was a turf horse until a race got washed off the turf at Delaware, and lo and behold, we have one of the best marathon horses that we've seen in the last 10 years. You got to take a shot at some point. And it's the people that take shots, like we talked about Torpedo Anna taking a shot in the Travers, obviously Rachel Alexander's campaign, Beholder in the Pacific Classic. When you take a shot, you get great racing moments. And as a racing fan, I long for great racing moments. Watching Next win these races by 25 lengths each and every time does nothing for me at this point. And he's going to run in the Greenwood Cup. It's not going to do anything for me. My guess is after that, he's going to run in the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance at 1 5/8 miles in Breeders' Cup weekend. And then we'll see him again next spring running in marathon races. Even though I've seen some people, I saw an article saying that Doug Cowan said they might run in the Breeders' Cup turf. I'll believe that when I see it as well. But yeah, I'm just extremely disappointed that we're not going to get a chance to see him. Because for my money, this was the chance we would have had to get him in a grade 1 going 10 furlongs.
I think running him in the Breeders' Cup turf is just a ludicrous idea. He'd have to go up against these Group 1 horses from Europe, and those are real quality. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Pacific Classic and the Jockey Club Gold Cup and how they came up less than inspiring, and this is the year to be trying these 1.25 mile Grade 1 dirt races. I agree with everything Darin said. Next has been running in strictly marathon races since 2022. Cowan said that he didn't handle shorter distances beforehand, but that was so long ago that to me, that's completely irrelevant. He's improved by leaps and bounds since his last attempt, outside the marathon division. And he has nothing to be scared of except for like not trying it, because he would absolutely stack up against the horses in Saturday's Jockey Club Gold Cup. And to me, he belongs in the Breeders' Cup Classic picture.
Hopefully we see him in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, as you mentioned, Cowens did say even the Classic could still be on the table, but probably the turf. He said he liked the pace scenario better of the Breeders' Cup turf, and he noted the Sword Dancer, how Farbridge got away with that very easy pace. So I'm hoping we see it, but I understand your skepticism, Darin.
Yeah, I mean, to echo James's point, and I get the Breeders' Cup Classic, you're going to have the 3-year-olds. Forever Young is more than likely coming back. I understand that's going to be a very difficult race. And the Breeders' Cup turf is 1.5 miles, which your horse loves. But we really think the time to take a shot is against the monsters coming over from Europe on turf. I mean, do we not have any idea how much better and how far superior European turf horses are? Plus, you're going to take this horse and put him back on turf after all this time. That's the shot you want to take instead of running against older horses at 1.25 miles on dirt. It just makes no sense to me. And I listen. Somebody shouted to him after he won his last race at Saratoga, something like, try the Classic, and he had a response to him saying, "You mean the Charlestown Classic?" I mean, it's old. And I get it. It's their horse. They could do what they want with him. Doesn't mean I have to be happy about it.
Well, I'll take it back to the race that we talked about earlier, the Flower Bowl, with Warlike Goddess, who raced against the boys in the Breeders' Cup turf last 2 seasons, and then also made an appearance in the Filly and Mare turf, which this is a Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for that specific race. But I wanted to note the 2 morning line favorites here. We have the 7-5 favorite, Warlike Goddess, and McCulloch, 3-1 on the morning line. And these are both late closers, but both horses for the course. We've got both of them with, I believe, 3 wins from 6 starts at Saratoga. If you're looking at distance, they both have handled this distance of 1 mile and 3/8. So McCulloch has 2 wins from 4 starts, Warlike Goddess 4 for 6. So this is a really interesting, I think it's a very difficult race. 2 late closers, plus you mentioned Nisi Marie, which you get a much better price, Darin. But I just found it very fascinating to see. I think McCulloch is probably the horse I'm going with. But, when Warlike Goddess shows up, it's always fun to watch her race and see what she does, even as a 7-year-old. And so also with the trainer angle here, Bill Mott has 5 wins in the Flower Bowl, but Chad Brown has a record 7. So again, it's really hard to pick apart who's going to have the advantage here. Again, I'm ultimately going McCulloch, coming off a win most recently at Saratoga. So I think I'm going to stick with that angle, but I certainly don't fault you for trying Nisi Marie here at 8-1, especially that closing kick that we saw at Colonial Downs.
Warlike Goddess is easy to root for, but I do like Darin's pick. I thought that Nisi Marie was in against 2 real tough ones. Fev Rover loves Colonial Downs, and I thought she had everything her own way. And Mora, I think she's improved this year and is really, really good. So I look for Nisi Marie. I think she's in with a big chance off this 3rd place effort. I didn't think that race set up very well for her last time, and she's going to get a better setup like Darin referenced before.
We'll find out on Saturday. But that's all the time we have for the TwinSpires jury. Head to TwinSpires.com or the app for those promos. Our TwinSpires tournament as well in the tournaments tab at TwinSpires.com. And we'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades.